Hi, my name is Pernille Götz. I'm from the Technical University of Denmark, senior educational consultant and also inventor of the hydrogen game. And today I will present to you the thoughts behind the hydrogen game, what it is, and what skills you need in case you want to learn how to use it in your teaching. In general, as a tool to create public awareness for hydrogen and Power-to-X. I will start by going through the idea, then go to the what, and finally the how. So the idea behind the game is that much communication about hydrogen often contains massive amounts of information in one slide. I'll give you some examples. So this is just randomly picked. I'm sure you have some examples at your own university. And the problem here is that each icon actually contains a full story of its own. So the idea behind the game is that we break up these massive amounts of information, slow down the communication about it, and have dialogues about each icon, each step of the way, and finally the system as such. So the learning objectives of the hydrogen game, they stem from describing and discussion to comparing and to finally innovating or developing ideas. So you can see the hydrogen game as a tool to facilitate discussions going from descriptive levels to high complexity within a short time and without needing to lecture a lot. So what is the hydrogen game? I will present to you all the files and so on that we have developed, that you can download all of it via the Green Skills for Hydrogen homepage. And also all the files, they come in standard file formats in PowerPoint, in Word and JPEG. So you'll be able to edit it to your own layout wishes and also wishes in general for what aspects should be highlighted. So first of all, we have boards, ideas for boards. These can be changes. We have developed around 50 different icons. It's not an exhaustive list of icons, but most of them. And finally, we've developed some playbooks, we call it, which are descriptions of ways that you can teach with the hydrogen game. Of course, I'm sure you will find a way that suits you better than what we have developed here, but this could be a starting point for you when you're going to start using the hydrogen game. And now we're going to the how. And I will not tell you that using the hydrogen game is just easy, just do it, it's super easy. Because it's not. It actually takes some experience with what discussions arise in classes and also some other skills than what you're probably used to in your own classes. I will start by giving some examples of what it looks like when you've played the hydrogen game and then go to what skills you should focus on practicing yourself. So first of all, this is an example from an online class where we distributed the PowerPoint slides, the icons, and some descriptions of what we wanted the learners to do. The learners came up with quite different ways of doing the task. Let me show you. So as a teacher, this is most probably quite overwhelming. And you may be thinking, oh, the learners have not understood the same thing. And this is okay. Let's try to zoom in on some examples. So if we take the first group, for example, here, you can see that they have placed electrolysis both in the conversion field and in the usage field. As a teacher, you may want to correct the learner right away by saying, it's actually incorrect that electrolysis should be in the usage part because it is mainly a conversion technology. But with this game, your first instinct should not be to correct the students. It should be to ask the students, so please, group 1, would you explain to us what your thoughts are behind placing electrolysis both in the conversion part and the usage part? And then you have the learners explain this because they have had time in groups to discuss this, so you know they have answers because they had to agree on where they put all the icons. You get their answers, they have some rationale, and then you're listening in, oh, what you're describing there is actually you think electrolysis could happen in the car, and that is correct theoretically, but technically we're quite far away from being able to do electrolysis in the car, especially at scale. So there you see you've had quite a big perspective on both technology readiness, types of application and so on, based on input that students give rather than you giving a lecture on something. Let's zoom in on another example. So we have group 2 and group 4 here. And as you can see, they have placed nuclear energy in different places. So in this case, we could ask group 1, so why did you put it under renewables? And why did you put it under non-renewables, or have you put it in between non-renewables and renewables? Again, now you would have the learners discuss, make clear what their arguments are, and they most probably will say we are in doubt whether it's here or there, because we've observed that some say it's renewables and some say it's non-renewables. So it's actually debatable. It's not always clear where all the icons go when you're using this categorization scheme. And this is pushing the learners to reflect upon where do we actually think we're going, and then discuss what knowledge are we basing our arguments on, again as a way to engage learners in the class based on their prior knowledge, and then you as a teacher, you can widen the perspective afterwards. The next example is from a small class with 6 learners. So there we had a whiteboard and we had the icons printed as magnets, and we asked the learners to put the magnets on the whiteboard and make drawings of connections between the icons and so on. And it looked like this. What we had given the learners were the 3 applications: train, ship, and aviation. And then we told the learners, please make the value chains from energy source to application for each application, thinking of a future energy system, how we believe the energy, you believe in your group, the energy system could look like in the future. So this is an example of facilitating discussions in the group where they're again using their prior knowledge. They had a lecture on the technologies before, but they're using their knowledge to think of how we believe the systems should be in the future. There could also have been a prior step where we were asking them please make the value chains for these applications as it is today, like more a descriptive task. And then go to the more innovative task where they're creating some new ideas and arguing for what types of fuels do we have to use and do we need an input. Again, this is an example of that we're not lecturing about the future energy systems. We're taking our point of departure in the discussions and the reflections that the learners have, but then go to quite a high level. So in this case, we ended up discussing electrification and what applications are good for electrification and what complexities of the energy system arise if we cannot electrify all, and if we don't have enough renewable electricity to produce the hydrogen. So discussions at a quite high level, and not just the teacher lecturing, but lecturing based on the input from the students. This makes of a good learning experience. So the final example is from a medium class, perhaps as classes usually are, between 25 and 30 learners. This was an adult learning setting. And we just laminated, we printed the icons on paper, laminated it and cut it. And we had printed out the big board as A0, but then later realized that we could just print the titles and they could move these around. The task that they were given here was to make the value chains for the hydrogen colors and make equations and other things. As you may see from this picture, again, there was dialogue on the table and people were participating with the knowledge that they had. So some were very good at chemistry, others were very good at some other things, and they could contribute to the fulfillment of the task together, and that created engagement. So now we've come to the final part, the how. what teaching skills do you need in order to teach with the hydrogen game. So in a normal class, it will often be the teacher who is very active, presenting, also the teacher who has prepared a lot because you had to do all the slides ready and so on. And the learners will perhaps be more passive. They're listening in on the clever words coming from the teacher. With the hydrogen game, we try to reverse that so that the teacher is not the main person working, but the learners are the ones who are active. So in this setting, the teacher is more in the background, but plays a crucial role of facilitating, guiding, and providing perspectives and examples to what the learners are discussing. So when the teacher has the role of a facilitator more, it doesn't mean that you are not active. It just means that you take on another role, which is very important, steering the learners in the direction that you want them, the discussions that you want them to have. I will not go through all the theory and research and details of the thoughts behind the game, because that's perhaps a bit too nerdy for now. But if you're interested, there's a lot to read about this subject. What I will do, though, is highlight some skills that I believe you should train. The first is active listening. So the thought of you doing less correction of learners and more listening in on their arguments and trying to understand their rationales and then correct. Also, facilitation is a big thing. It's a great tool. I love it. It also means less lecturing and more letting learners discuss based on questions and tasks that you give them. Based on the hydrogen game in this sense, but facilitation could also be used more broadly. Your preparation also changes, and I like this kind of preparation more. It's less you preparing slides and content for the students, and more that you're imagining the types of conversations that will arise based on your facilitation, and then your preparation is choosing the icons, the boards, based on what conversations you want them to have. A general rule of thumb is that the more icons you have and give the learners, the more complexity and the more difficult it is for them to get it all right. So you can reduce complexity for your learners by reducing the number of icons. And then you can always slip in some icons along the way in your class, but start out with less and then build on with more. That makes of a good learning experience. Finally, the one that often scares teachers is that you have to learn to tackle unpredictability. So when learning becomes visible, with this game for example, you'll be surprised by the types of questions and arguments learners have. Whether you're an experienced teacher or not so experienced teacher regarding the content, it may not feel super satisfying if you're not able to answer the questions or if you don't understand the questions that learners are asking. But with this, it goes for all teaching, and experience is key. So you can do your own small-scale train the trainer program. I suggest your first step is you try the game with colleagues. This is very safe, I hope. The second step is you try the game with a small group of students. It could be 10 or 15 students, and this is semi-safe. And then finally, you try with a bigger group of students. You try it either online or offline. I suggest that you start with the offline versions because the online facilitation is a bit more difficult. But try to do it in these steps so that you don't stand in front of 50 students the first time you're doing the game. For now, I have no more to say than good luck, and please reach out if you have questions.